Welcome everyone to the Kent City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. This is a remote meeting due to the COVID-19 health and safety requirements put in order by the governor. Welcome to anyone watching us today on Kent TV 21, the Facebook City of Kent channel, the Kent TV 21 YouTube channel, and then anyone that has called in to listen this afternoon. Let's go ahead and get started. Kim, will you please call the roll?
Thank you. Council President Troutner.
Here.
Councilmember Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And moving on, do we have any changes to this agenda from council or staff?
None from staff this afternoon.
All right, we will move on and get started then with department presentations. And we have information only on the Federal Way link extension right-of-way dedications and street vacations. So welcome to Kelly Peterson. Nope, I think we're having a hard time hearing you, Kelly. Oh, we can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No. Sounds like you're very, very far away.
Yeah, I'm right in front of the microphone here. Madam President, I would suggest that we take the next item on the agenda and encourage Kelly to call in if he can hear us and do the presentation by telephone.
Okay. All right. So hopefully you heard that, Kelly. Let's move on. The next thing on the agenda is payment of bills, which all the council members get those through email. So next, let's welcome Michelle Ferguson and have the August and September financial reports.
I am Michelle Ferguson, the Financial Planning Manager, and I will be presenting the September 2020 monthly financial report. In your agenda packet, there is the August and September monthly reports, but I will just be going over the September reports since they're pretty similar. So, next slide, please. Here are the general fund revenues. We have received 69.3 in revenues through September this year. Taxes are making up about 82% of the revenues through September, as compared to last year when taxes only made up 75% of the revenues at this point in time of the year. This is not because we have received more tax revenue, but because we are seeing a decrease in all the other revenue categories, mainly licenses and permits, intergovernmental revenue, charges for services, fines and forfeitures, and miscellaneous revenues. And I'll go into those details on the next few slides. So on this slide, I highlighted the property tax revenue. So you can see that normally we get the bulk of the first half of the property tax revenues in April and May. This year was a little bit different because King County extended the deadline for property tax payments from April 30th to June 1st. So you can see that we didn't all get the bulk of it that 1 month. It was kind of more spread out. So it was a concern of ours that they would do this for the second half of the payments, but King County has decided not to extend the deadline for the second half. Because they don't want to create a risk for municipalities and districts to not have their revenues by the end of the year. So the second half of the property tax payments will be due at the beginning of November, November 2nd to be exact. And for those of people who have been impacted by COVID-19, King County has set up a payment plan for individuals that are having a hardship. So there is a possibility that some minor revenues that were meant to be received in 2020 could be received in 2021 because of the payment plan that they have created. But we still should be seeing the bulk of those revenues coming in next month or in October, and you'll see them in the next month's report. So next slide. Here highlighted are the other revenues. Since March, these revenues have been coming in about 1.1 million less a month than in 2019. So this is mainly due to the decreases in licenses and permits and charges for services. And so I'll go a little bit more into detail on the next slide. So here you can see the month-to-month comparison for the last couple of years in the revenues and the expenditures, but right now we'll focus on the revenues. So the revenues lines highlighted in green are lower mainly due to COVID-19. The revenue lines highlighted in yellow are not really COVID related for the most part. So comparatively, you can see that sales tax is coming in about 2.4 million less than this time last year. This decrease is mostly due to the loss of the annexation sales tax credit, as well as moving some of the annexation portion of the criminal justice sales tax revenue back to the criminal justice fund. B&O is higher due to the increase in square footage rates, and intergovernmental revenues are currently about $3.3 million lower than in 2019. So prior to the fourth quarter of 2019, the streamlined sales tax mitigation went into the general fund, and then we decided to move it into the capital resources fund. So at this point in 2019, there was over $3 million in streamlined sales tax revenues. The other part of intergovernmental that's being affected is due to the fuel tax. A portion of the fuel tax was going into the general fund for annexation purposes, and now those are all of it are going into the street fund, and that made up about $300,000. So other taxes, which is admissions tax, gambling tax, And then as well as license and permits, charges for services, miscellaneous revenues, those are down due to the impacts of COVID-19. The estimated actuals for the year for those four green highlighted revenue categories are estimated to be about $8 million less than in 2019 at year end. And about half of those reduced revenues are COVID related. The other half are what I just spoke about the streamlined sales tax and shifts of annexation. So now if you shift below to looking at expenditures, you can see that expenditures from September of 2019 to September 2020 are almost identical. And this is due to COVID-related reductions of positions, supplies, services, as well as vacancies and departments reducing their discretionary spending.
I have a question, Madam President.
Go ahead, council member.
Thank you. I really like the idea to keep the expense down. That's pretty good. Could you explain up top the revenue, the sale and use again? You were saying it was split between something. I didn't quite hear you.
The sales and use tax.
Yeah.
That one is lower due to the loss of the annexation sales tax credit, and then as well as a portion of the criminal justice sales tax is moving back into the criminal justice fund. So just a portion of it was getting receipted into the general fund, and now all of it will be in the criminal justice fund.
And how much was the difference of the sale and annex tax? Do you know off the top of your head?
The annexation sales tax credit is about $2.4 million this year. It was nearly $5 million last year. So we lost half of it when it ended in June of 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just want to note, Councilmember Thomas has joined us. Did you have a question or comment?
Yes, Madam Chair. So where does gambling come in on the revenues there?
It's under other. So other is going to be gambling as well as admissions tax.
Now, do we get much from gambling at this point? With, I think of the Golden Steer always had the pull tabs revenue. Are there pull tabs in other outlets around town?
I believe there's one or two locations, but I'm not sure. We don't get a whole lot from gambling taxes. We estimated that we get about 250,000, and so far this year we've only gotten 61,000 so far.
All right, kind of like marijuana. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I don't see any other hands raised.
So we can move on to the next slide, and these are going to be talking about other funds. So I've highlighted the left one, retiree benefits, on this slide. The 2020 revenues seem like they're a little short compared to 2019, but that has to do with just there was an extra payment made in 2019 that was made early. So next month it'll all work out and you won't see that variance. On the expenditure side, though, the expenditures are higher, and that's due to an increased cost of the health insurance of the individuals on the plan, as well as the number of individuals who are now living at long-term care facilities. And that's a pretty big expense. So this fund is under budgeted. There will be a need for a budget change done before the end of the year. We have corrected this in the 21-22 budget, so there shouldn't be a budget change needed next year. And so next slide, I've highlighted two of these. The first one is going to be the special assessment debt service. So it looks like there's a big variance there, and there is, but that is due to the completion of LID 353. So it's just a reminder, LIDs are used to finance capital improvement projects that benefit taxpayers in a specific area. So we assess them fees and then they pay back over time. So the LID 353 was for the South 228th Street improvements, and that has been completed. So we will no longer be getting those revenues or then paying back the project for those. And then the solid waste utility tax has increased expenditures from 2019, and that is due to a portion of some positions now being charged to this fund. There's about 4 positions that now have about 25% of their costs being charged to this fund. Additionally, there was an employee that was incorrectly being charged to this fund, and this has been corrected, but you're not going to see that on this report. It will show up on next report. The expenditures won't be as high. And then the last slide, I've highlighted the property insurance, and the property insurance revenues are showing higher variance revenues and expenditures, and this is due to 2019. And in 2019, there was a reimbursement from the insurance company as well as an expenditure to pay for the Lake Meridian bathhouse repair. So this year, 2020 revenue and expenditures are pretty much on target. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle on this report? All right, I don't see any hands raised.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we are going to go back to Kelly. Kelly, I believe you're ready to go.
Can you hear me now?
You sound great. Welcome.
Excellent. Chad Bieren saved me. He said, come on down. So that's how we're going to do it. So good afternoon, Council President Troutner, members of the council. I am the liaison to the city's liaison to Sound Transit for the Federal Way Link Extension Project. And I'm here to talk to you today about right-of-way vacations and dedications. Next slide, please. So the Federal Way Link Extension is over 7 miles in length from SeaTac down to Federal Way. Several of those miles are within the city of Kent, and we also have 2 stations and 2 garages. As a result, Sound Transit is acquiring 80 parcels or portions of parcels just within the city of Kent. As a result of the project, there will be a few street vacations and several dedications that will be required. For the vacations, there will be an application process and a public hearing for each vacation before the Kent City Council. All dedications will require council action in the form of an acceptance. And what staff is going to try to do is try to consolidate these as much as possible to the same council meeting, even though there has to have separate hearings for each of the vacations. But for all the dedications, we'll be bringing those to the council. Again, this is a design build project, and so nailing down exactly where the street vacations and the dedications are, it's a continual process as the design gets refined. However, all of the street vacations and the dedications will be consistent with both the development agreement and the transitway agreement, which has been approved by City Council and the Sound Transit Board. Next slide, please. So the 2 street vacations are located near the Star Lake Station, and this is the southern part of the city. South 272nd Street is on the very bottom of this image, and that's the very southern limits of the city. You can see I-5 going north-south through the area. Star Lake Station is the former Star Lake Park and Ride. And the 2 areas where vacations will occur are circled in white. We'll focus on the upper one first, where you can see the crosshatch area and all the trees. That's actually a very, very large wetland. It's called the Mcsorley Wetland here in the city of Kent. The furthest northern vacation area that you can see there in the white circle, where the blue bars are, that is unimproved right-of-way. And we believe those are remnant pieces that are left over from when I-5 came through. And then we're going to look at each of these 2 areas here in the next 2 slides. But I do want to point out that these vacations are going to be required for the construction of some stormwater ponds, as well as to accommodate the Star Lake Station, specifically the bus loop at Star Lake. 1 additional street vacation may be required at South 259th, which is further north in this on this image. We don't know yet. Originally, Sound Transit was going to construct a stormwater pond, but through some of their decisions, they decided to do a stormwater vault, and so we don't know the exact impacts yet. As soon as we get that redesign, we'll be coming back to council and just keeping you posted as far as what will be required in those locations. So the next 2 slides, they're going to be oriented just a little bit, but we'll go through those. So in this slide, this is that upper one that I was referring to. North is to the left. You can see Mcsorley Creek and Mcsorley Wetland down the lower left-hand corner and the wetland buffer. I-5 is on the very top of this image. The blue area is property that is currently owned by Washington State Department of Transportation. And there's 2 ponds that will be constructed here. Pond G will be a pond owned by Sound Transit to capture stormwater for the guideway. Pond F will be a stormwater pond owned by WashDOT for the future SR 509 project and to accommodate stormwater coming off of I-5. The 2 yellow areas that you see, these are actually separate street vacations. That's the unimproved right-of-way, allows Sound Transit to go in there, construct these stormwater facilities, and also to gain access to the stormwater ponds. Next slide, please. So this is the same area, just a little bit further south. Again, north is going to the left. I-5 is off the picture on top. You can see Star Lake Station there on the right-hand side. So what's happening here? This one's just a little bit different, a little bit unique. The green dashed lines that you see, that is the existing right-of-way. this road is going to get shifted to the northwest. So the yellow area that you see is the area that will be vacated. The blue area is the area that will be dedicated to the city of Kent. So the new right-of-way lines are represented there by the purple dash line. I want to emphasize those are not exact. As we get through the engineering, we'll start getting those areas nailed down. But this essentially is showing how the right-of-way and the road will be shifted to accommodate the station. So this one will require a vacation and a dedication. Next slide, please. And this last slide, we've moved down to the Kent Des Moines station area. We have a number of dedications that will occur. We have the new roads that we've talked about several times, South 234th Street, South 236th Street, and South 238th Street. Those are new roads. We'll get those areas dedicated as right-of-way. In addition, here at the KDM area, we have 30th Avenue South that's going to be widened to accommodate all the requirements that are within the development agreement and the transitway agreement. And so they'll, as you can imagine, all the parcels that are along this street will have those dedications that Sound Transit is going and acquiring those pieces of property and the property rights to be able to do the project. So throughout the project, there's a number of street vacations, including Star Lake. So again, all of these will be consistent with the development agreement and the transitway agreement, and we'll be bringing these back to council as we move through the project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Councilmember Fincher, I know you had trouble. Were you able to see the presentation?
No, I'm actually logging on to another device right now.
Okay. Councilmember Boyce, do you have a comment or a question? I see your mic is off.
Thank you, Madam President. Hey, Kelly, you mentioned something about this stormwater grant. I'm sorry, for Sound Transit. They may be changing something you were saying. Did I hear you say that?
I'm sorry, where they said that maybe what?
I thought, are they going to still go forward with their stormwater for Sound Transit? Are they making any changes?
Oh, they did make a change where there was going to be a stormwater pond just south of South 259th Street. They changed from a pond to a stormwater vault. So they both meet code, but Sound Transit chose to do the stormwater vault because there'd be less conflicts with the way the stormwater moves through the area.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly? All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for that presentation. We look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, moving on in the agenda, it looks like up next we have an update on Workday.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Annette Pape, and I'm the project manager for the Workday project, and I'll be being joined by Kari Endicott, the business process analyst for the project. I'd like to thank everyone for giving us the opportunity to share some project updates with you. We're going to go over the project scope, the project budget, milestones achieved, organizational communication and training, next steps, Q&A, and I did prepare some backup slides as well. So the Workday project will systematically resolve the city's human capital management and automation pay-related issues and needs with a focus on human resources, finance, IT, and the enterprise timekeeping function. Supporting this work will include the deployment of a new business system technology platform on or before the end of the year 2020 at a cost not to exceed the current authorized budget of $4.385 million. Our target for deployment is December 16th, 2020. The project is well within the approved budget. Professional services are at time and material expenses. So for the remainder of the project's yet to be finalized, but projects are on target. The use of the remaining funds, we are estimating at about $200,000 will be set aside for post-go live. We'll be using that money for post-production support, advanced learning credits for staff in HR, payroll, and the liaison roles, as well as some custom report development. Again, the project is on budget, and with approximately 2 months left to go before go live, there is no additional budget request of council to be expected. So some of the milestones that we've achieved so far. We have gone through our planning, architect, and configuration stages of the Human Capital Management, HCM, which is comprised of organizational management, dashboards and analytics, security and permissions, integrations, electronic distribution of forms, recruitment, onboarding, benefits, time tracking, compensation, absence, perform, pay, integrations, organizational communication and training. And we have achieved at, I would say, close to 90% leverage of best practices out of the box for our Workday configuration. Some of the things I'd like to call out of these stages are about 30 integrations that we have developed with our implementation partner. Some of those integrations include integrations with US Bank, our benefits partners, Telestaff, as well as E-Verify. We've got about 40 custom reports that we are working with our implementation partner to create. Some of those reports are going to be for custom integrations for DRS, for the general ledger, and position control. And I'm going to let Kari talk about data conversion. She has been leading this effort.
Good afternoon. Data conversion has been significant. We've converted over 200,000 records. What that contains is a bunch of employee data, so names, phone numbers, addresses, pay, compensation, absence, time offs employees have requested. There's significant amount of data that we're converting from JD Edwards into Workday, and the data conversion is about 99.72% of accuracy. We went through an end-to-end testing stage, had over 3,800 test cases that the Workday team processed through, all the way from the employee life cycle, starting with hiring an applicant, through the process of going through the hire, going through the process of changing jobs, entering time, all the way down to processing pay and issuing the paychecks. We're currently in the parallel pay cycles. Our parallel pay cycles, we've done 3 different cycles. We're on our last one right now. What a parallel pay cycle is processing identical pay periods like we did in JD Edwards, comparing it to how it processes in Workday, and making sure that how we have everything set up and processing through is working, and ultimately pays the employees correctly at the end. With us looking at the different variances that are expected to come out of the pay cycles. Our last cycle should end on Friday, and we're currently in the build for our gold production environment, so it's perfect timing. The next, one of the other things that we've done is we had our user experience sessions where we pulled in all of our department liaisons and managers and went through a high level view. It's basically a show and tell to our departments to be able to see what Workday is going to look like. And that was pretty successful with a significant amount of employees attending. Next slide, please. OC&T, our organizational communication and training, there's some big impacts that are coming out with Workday. We are actually going to where all of our employees will be required to enter their time, submit it, and then certify that the hours that they are submitting are the hours that they have worked or have requested as time off. We will be requiring managers to approve all the time that is entered. And we're working towards a paperless process. So today we process things that are called PCRs. It's basically changes to employees. And we're working to get rid of the paper we actually have with Workday. And we will be processing through business processes within the system. And employees will be able to see where the process is at. For example, changing someone's pay. It will be entered at one point. It will process through the managers for approval. And then ultimately HR will take their component and it will be passed to the payroll department to pay the employees. And one of the nice features that is provided by Workday is their mobile app. It provides our employees the ability to access Workday from a mobile device. So they will be able to enter their time if they're in the field. They'll be able to enter their time if they happen to be at home and they're sick. They can get in and approve transactions that are submitted to them for the next steps. It's a pretty significant change for our employees. It will also help during our open enrollment period when employees are wanting maybe to review stuff with their significant others at home. Next slide.
So next steps. The project kicked off on January 5th, 2020, again with the target end date of December 16th, 2020. And I've just got kind of a high level overview of some of the things that we've accomplished. I know that the ELT was given a presentation in August. We had some manager and department liaison presentations for our user experience sessions. And we are starting in on our town halls. We had our first town hall today and there were over 60 people in attendance. And we will be moving on into November into our user access training, as well as going into our gold build. So there's some concurrent work streams happening here. One being the training of the managers and the department liaisons, formerly known as timekeepers, as well as the data conversion for the gold build, as well as finishing up the third cycle of our parallel pay testing. We have a go, no-go target date of December 7th, where we will engage the executive stakeholders and have a go, no-go conversation. And right now, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a go. And we'll go live on December 16th, 2020. Does anybody have any questions for us, or we can go over our backup slide? Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Well, and I know Councilmember Boyce, you're very familiar with us, and you were one of the ones that asked if we could see how this project was going. So I would imagine, do you have any questions or comments?
Just a few questions. I'm very excited about the team and the progress you guys made. For the couple of questions on the timekeeping, that's for all employees throughout the city?
Yes, sir. All employees throughout the city will be entering their own time, as well as certifying the time and being approved by the manager, with the exception of the council members, which will be taken care of by Gina Esposito.
Oh, okay. And then you don't trust us? I'm happy to put my
No, we're trying to do you a favor.
All righty. I'm familiar with it. I can do it. But anyway, can you talk about the help desk? You know, one thing I do know, I mean, Workday is very nice, but sometimes it requires help. So an employee got a question or concern. What do your help desk customer support looks like?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that. We've got a couple different avenues that we are going to be taking for our end user support during deployment. That first probably 2 to 4 weeks, we anticipate having an open team session, because most of the questions are going to be, how do I, what if, how can I, types of questions from the end users. Anything outside end user questions that the subject matter experts, myself, Kari, or any of the members of the project team cannot answer. We do have our implementation partners through January, I want to say 30th. Anyway, through the end of January, we do have implementation partners that will be supporting us. And if anything happens within the system Workday itself, then we will go through Workday's service desk and submit a case for Workday to correct any issues that could be wrong within our configuration or our environment. Kim, could you go to the backup slide?
And while she's doing that, just to follow up, so I know if I have a concern or a question, I can submit a ticket and it goes to the help desk and they'll get back with me. Are you guys set up the same way, or just a call on the phone, or what?
So that's going to be that was kind of the first avenue that I just summarized, and it's going to be mostly within the City of Canon and the Workday team. Future state, we do anticipate leveraging our Ivanti, the ITSM that was recently implemented for to replace the service desk that we had previously. And we will be having workflows set up in Ivanti. So to answer your question directly, people, end users will be submitting tickets through our service desk, and they will be routed to the subject matter experts to answer them and provide the assistance that is needed by the end user.
It's pretty slick. And one last question, this is for Kari. Kari, you mentioned something about the dual payroll 2 out of 3. Were they successful? You didn't say. I'm assuming they were successful. No hiccups with those?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, they were very successful. We definitely landed within our variance, and we were able to move on to each of this next stages. So yes, they were very successful, and this one is looking just as successful.
Well, I just want to say kudos to the team. I'm very excited about Workday, very happy with it. So you guys doing a phenomenal job. It sounds like you're doing the right stuff. So good job, team.
Thank you.
We're really looking forward to the deployment, and thank you for everyone's support.
Councilmember Larmer, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Bill's last comment. I have seen a lot of IT projects in my career, and those numbers you showed were really impressive. So great job, everybody. That is a lot of integrations, a lot of custom reports that you're working with the implementer on. So just very impressive and well done. So kudos to everyone involved from the business side and the IT side as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, and I'm not very techie at all, and this looks like it would probably be very easy to use. So very user-friendly for those of us that aren't techie. So looking forward to seeing what it really looks like. Any other questions, comments from my colleagues?
Just good.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments about this? All right. Thank you again for this presentation. We've been talking about this project, and it's great to see that it's coming along and see what it looks like, and see that we're on target to go live on the 16th of December. Exciting.
Thank you for your support and for the opportunity to provide you with some information. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. This next item does require action by council, and this is on the Kronisch property. So welcome to Drew.
Hello, this is, yep, there we go. That's my PowerPoint. Hello, City Council and Madam Mayor and everyone else. Thank you for having me. My name is Drew Holcomb. I'm with Public Works Design, and I'm the engineer working on the West Hill Reservoir. So I'm here to talk about the recent fires in Sumner and Bonnie Lake. So I've been presenting to you guys for a number of times, and I know that our water department has also talked about the need for this, and we just wanted to discuss these recent fires and how this is something that can happen in Kent. This happened nearby. So this is the Sumner, these photos are from the Sumner grade fire, which impacted both Sumner and Bonnie Lake. The fire started along 410 and burned more than 500 acres. You can see there in the pictures, it got very close to the homes. This is where water comes in. You need this fire flow storage in order to prevent these kind of fires and save these homes. Next slide, please. Here's a couple more photos. You can see the fire right there in someone's backyard and along 410. And we have our water department contacted someone over at Bonnie Lake and discussed the fire with them. And they told us that during the peak of the fire, they had over 20 fire hydrants hooked up, and they were estimating 5,000 gallons per minute were used during the fire. Coincidentally, that's what we designed the West Hill Reservoir for, based on the need of the buildings and the fire flow capacity calculated from the buildings in our service area. So this West Hill Reservoir will really make a big impact should a fire like this impact Kent. And the West Hill Reservoir will buy all of the firefighters more time and have all that water available. And, we don't have to worry about backups because the tank is sized to fight something like this. Next slide, please. Again, you've seen this slide before, but it shows well the increase in fire flow requirements from 1988 to 2018. And our tank was sized to accommodate 50 years in the future, which is where that 5,000 gallons per minute comes from. Next slide, please. So again, these fires were in Bonnie Lake and Sumner, but they can happen in Kent. And this is an example of those that happen in Kent on the West Hill. This one's from 2017 along I-5. Next slide, please. And this one's from 2019 along I-5. Next slide, please. Again, this West Hill Reservoir is the first of multiple projects on the West Hill in order to improve the reliability of the West Hill water system. So you can see the tank there at the top left of the screen. This map's flipped a little bit. So the Green River is down there at the bottom in the right corner, and I-5 is right along the very top of the page. So the other parts of the project will be a booster pump station down there by Veterans Drive Bridge, and then the water will come up Veterans Drive and then down Military to serve this tank as a backup for water. This will become the primary supply of water to the tank, and the existing system will become the backup system. Next slide, please. This project is scheduled to go to advertisement in 2 weeks and will be presented to you for award hopefully on December 8th, if everything goes well. And this is a engineering drawing of the site plan that we're bidding. Next slide, please. So I'm also here to talk to you about the lot line adjustment. So as you can see there, I've identified the 3 parcels that comprise the Kronisch property. And in order to construct the tank on there, we need to remove those lot lines that are in the middle and combine all this into one parcel, one single parcel. So that's what I'm asking for your signature for.
I have a quick question before we turn, Council President.
Yep, go ahead.
A couple questions. So that building to the left is that's the what is the county building that the guy came and was complaining about? That's his office that we're not going to bother.
This is, yes, this is the attorney's office. I don't believe he's associated with the county, but yes, this is an attorney, and we've been in contact with him, and we'll continue that contact going forward.
And how's that conversation going?
He's been responsive so far. I last communicated with him to let him know that we're going to be putting a fence up along and remove his little fence and put a bigger fence up, but we'll be leaving part of his fence, and he didn't have any complaints related to that.
Okay, and you're probably going to get to this. So once the bid go up in December, what's the completion time to put something in place and get it going?
So the estimated construction time is 1.5 years. So that'll be starting in January when the project is, we have to sign all the papers and award the project properly. And so January is pretty much the earliest they could start construction, and then it's 1.5 years from then.
And my last question, please forgive me, as far as the community people, how we're reaching out to them to let them know what's going on and the phases and so on.
Yes, so we have been working with the mayor's office on a communication plan, and the first step of that plan will be sending out mailers to everyone within the water system on the West Hill within that service district, and letting them know about the need for a water tank. What I've been presenting to you. So we'll be sending that out shortly. And then when we get closer to construction, boots on the ground, we'll be sending a flyer to within a mile of the reservoir. We'll be sending a flyer so that everyone can see that, as well as social media posts along with that. As far as the key players nearby, I've met with them in person and discussed it with them, so they're aware, but everybody else will reach by mailers and social media posts.
And I will hope, I see Madam Mayor's on the phone, but I will hope that the communication, I mean, you're talking December, that's, 6 weeks away, right? I will hope that we will start on that communication rather quickly.
So, yes, so the first part of construction is I say construction, but that just means under contract. With a tank like this, we have a month or 2 of going back and forth with shop drawings to fabricate the tank parts and everything. So it's not likely that they'll be, erecting the tank right away. So that gives us a little bit of time. And we discussed kind of holding off on the construction notification until it's a little closer, so it's fresh in people's minds. And so the mailer we have going out about the fires in the area and the need for this tank will, kind of give people a heads up. Then we'll give them another heads up even closer when we get closer to construction.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it, bud.
Yep.
Great questions, Councilmember Boyce. And we've been talking about this for quite some time as well. So hopefully some of our residents have been listening in on that conversation. Any other questions or comments for Drew on this? Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands raised. So this would be for the West Hill Reservoir Kronisch property lot line adjustment, moving it forward to consent calendar. Are there any objections? All right, we are good to go. Thank you so much, Drew.
All right, thank you very much.
Moving on, another item to take action on is restrictive covenant for the South 224th Street project wetland mitigation.
Good afternoon, council members and Madam President. My name is Meara Heubach, and I am with Public Works Engineering. And I'm here to talk about approving a covenant that will protect one of the last natural areas in the valley. This natural area is a degraded wetland that we are rehabilitating because of work related to the South 224th Street project, which you see shown on the slide. The project extended South 224th over Highway 167 via an overpass. But to build the overpass, we had to fill about half an acre of wetland. So to make up for that loss, we're going to restore about 5 acres of wetland on another site. Next slide, please. The restoration site was previously owned by High-Tech Finishes, so you may have heard of it as the High-Tech site, and that's shown here. And this site is close to the East Valley Highway and South 216th. And next year we plan on planting about 15,000 plants there. But to protect the natural aspects of the wetland, we want to record a covenant on the property deed. And the covenant will not allow development or any use that reduces the site's environmental benefits, such as wildlife habitat and water filtration. And the covenant is also required by our core permit, which was issued for the South 224th Street projects. So to protect one of the last natural areas in the valley and to comply with our core permit, I move to recommend that the council authorize the mayor to approve a restrictive covenant on this parcel, which will guarantee the property's permanent use as a wetland mitigation site free from development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Thomas, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I've heard from 2 different people that Garrison Creek is dried up right now. Is that true?
I am not sure about the conditions of Garrison Creek right now, but I can get back to you on that.
If you wouldn't mind, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Carla Maloney, the design engineering manager for the project. And so far as I know, Garrison Creek is a year-round creek that flows. And to the best of our knowledge, it is still flowing to this day. And as Meara said, we'll go ahead and verify that that's the case.
Thanks so much, Carla. I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments on this project? All right, so you have that motion in front of you. Any objections to moving this forward to the consent calendar? All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised or anyone shaking their hands, so we will move that forward to the consent calendar. Thank you, everyone. And we are moving on to information only on the 4th and Willis Gateway signs.
Good evening, Council President Troutner and Council. I'm hoping you can hear me because I'm coming to the same place that Kelly was coming from. Quick item on the 4th and Willis roundabout sign, and there's been a little bit of confusion. I want to make sure we have some clarity on this. In development of the 4th and Willis roundabout project, we talked about gateway signage. And as we move forward with the project, we did not include it in the original project. There was some movement in the fall to include it as part of CARES funding. We had initial indications that the CARES Act money would be available and could be used
used for signage such as this gateway signage. So we've moved ahead with ordering signs. And in the meantime, we found out that CARES would not cover the cost of the signage itself. However, we moved forward, and as you can see from this rendering, the signage itself we feel would fit in very well with the gateway aspects of the 4th and Willis roundabout project. So we have kind of two projects going. We have the Public Works project, which is the roundabout is under construction, and elements of that go out from 4th and Willis. And then we're also doing some follow-on work. We have a request into the state and also some budgeted funds through the Parks Department to add gateway improvements between the Union Pacific tracks and 4th and Willis. So as part of that, we wanted to include this gateway signage, which will allow us to supply messages to folks going eastbound and westbound along Willis between the roundabout and Union Pacific. So this first rendering, if you notice on the right side, this pretty sizable sign. It's almost 10 feet tall, 9.5 feet tall. So there's the shaded out person standing next to the signage. So it's a good sized sign. It won't just sit there off to the side. It'll be something that motorists can see fairly easily. Next slide, please. One eastbound sign, again, clearly visible. One thing that's not shown in this rendering, we do have some guardrail that's out there. However, the sign will be visible above the guardrail, and we're verifying that before we go forward with construction. Next slide shows the westbound sign. And again, this allows us to put messages regarding what's happening in the city, meetings, any up-to-date information we want to include. Messaging will be forwarded through the communications group, even events. So just something that we haven't had in the city that we thought would be a really good addition to the project. And with that, if there are any questions.
Thank you, Chad. Any questions for Chad? Councilmember Boyce, I see you have your mic off.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. Chad, so the eastbound and westbound, as I look at it looked awfully low to the ground. I mean, that's just the way it look on this map, or is it high enough where as I'm driving, it's in my driving vision without me kind of looking downward? I mean, it looks
the rendering is not quite perfect, but as we noted in that first, if we go back to that first slide again, with a nearly 10-foot tall sign, we'll be able to see it. What we are going to do out there is we're going to mock up that sign along with the other signage for the project. We're actually going to survey it in and go look at it to make sure everything fits and looks right before we go forward and get everything done.
Okay. And just curious, I think this is a great thing we're doing. I'm glad because to give people a chance to come into the city to kind of understand what's going on in the city. So what is the cost of that sign in the village,
It total between the two, we've estimated $145,000.
That's not bad.
So that includes the monument. The signage inside of it actually is, they're four very large screens. You can see both directions. And those are already ordered. I think those are about $27,000. So it includes all the engineering and the construction is $145,000.
That's a pretty good price. Then my last question. So the message, how you control the messages? I mean, there's from your place where you type the message in and it shows up, or how did that work?
It's actually through cell phone service. So it would be done through communications over cell.
Okay. Pretty nice. I like that. I really like that. That's great. Especially one in 4th and Willis. That's gonna be nice as you go around the roundabout and see what's going on in the city. So, all right. Thanks, bud.
Thank you. Councilmember Larmer, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. So Chad, will it be text only like what we're seeing in the simulation?
Yes.
Okay. And is it just the black and white, or?
Actually red.
Oh, it's red. Okay. So it's like black background, red text.
Yeah.
That's the only option.
I think they do have other options, but it's not like a video board. It won't be a video screen like that's on the showware sign, that up high video screen.
Okay. It's more.
We don't want to confuse drivers.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Council President. I actually had that same question. I was wondering if it was more like the showware sign or more like the Kent Commons sign. Sounds like it's going to be like the Kent Commons sign, but maybe a little more updated.
Yeah, more updated than that, but again, text. That's what we want to, just want to be able to provide messaging.
Okay. And then I'm really glad that this is close to the ground. I think it looks classy and nice. I was a little worried that it was going to be elevated and flashy and ugly, but this looks really nice. So thank you.
Credit to Terry Youngman in the Parks Department. He worked on that part of it.
Echoing all the comments of my colleagues, it does look very nice. I like the ability to for you to be able to put things on there very quickly. So if there was something we need to alert the public to, it can be done, you know, without very little effort. So I think it'll be a very useful tool for the city to have. So thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to finish off with a couple of presentations from James Endicott. And James, do you want to do these one at a time? And then okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Thank you. So good afternoon, committee, council members. Thank you for the time today. I do have two items. The first one is going to be Beyond Trust, privilege management. This solution will continue to support IT's effort to protect and secure all of our end user computers. The main component of today's request is being able to purchase through Washington State Department of Enterprise Services Cooperative Purchasing Agreement with Insight Public Sector. In addition to the current work, we also seek approval for any subsequent purchases as long as they are within our city established budgets and are within the terms of the state contract. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions on that?
What are you buying? I'm missing something.
Yep, no, good question. So what we're buying is, the company is Beyond Trust, and the product is actually a privilege management. So for example, computers have administrative accounts that allow people to manage components of your computer. And one of the things we need to do is basically, to protect those computers, we need to remove those elevated permissions. And so this tool allows us to have a centralized management of those permissions.
Gotcha. Now I got it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions on this for James? All right. So this is for the Beyond Trust Elevated Privilege Manager. Any objections with moving this forward to consent calendar? All right, James, looks like you can go ahead with the next project.
Perfect, thank you. So the second item I have to request for council approval is the mayor to sign a purchase agreement with Canon Solutions of America to replace our existing multifunctional devices, which is 62 of them. Our current lease with Canon Solutions of America is about $11,600 per month for our existing fleet that's approaching 4 years old. Replacing the existing MFDs with newer devices will lower our overall monthly lease by just around $2,000. In addition to the lease charges, we have also contemplated in here the click charges, the property and sales taxes for approval. And IT does currently have budget line item for the monthly lease expenses, as well as each department does have departmental click charges also budgeted to them.
So
any questions?
Looking at this, it's got a little bit of an upfront cost, but then in the long run, the monthly fees will be less. Is that what you said?
No, there is no upfront cost. It is just literally rolling right into the lease. So it's just basically the numbers that I put in here was overall expenditures, but in essence, when we put the contract into place, the cost goes down and then they start replacing the machine. So there's not an upfront payment.
Okay. Any questions for James on this? All right. Any objections with moving this forward? All right. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our Committee of the Whole agenda for this evening. It is just a minute before 5 o'clock, so that gives you about a half an hour for my colleagues to take a little bit of a break, and we will come back here at 5:30 for our special budget workshop, and continue the conversation we've been having the past couple of weeks. So looking forward to seeing everybody back here, and for the time being, we are adjourned.
Our new appointed financial planning manager, Michelle Ferguson, and her team, Kathleen McConnell and Shane Sorensen, who masterfully navigated this budget process while juggling the budgetary impacts of COVID-19. Thank you all for your hard work, collaboration, and willingness to continue to move Kent forward. Our residents, businesses, and visitors are counting on it. Thank you.